I was terminally addicted to drugs and was at the very end of things, laying in bed with my heart stopped going, is this it this time? And then kicking back in and going, okay, what am I going to do? And I had a what am I going to do moment where I went, I don't know if my heart is about to stop at any moment again and not start. And I was so alone in it and so afraid because of the state of mind that I was in that I didn't want to tell anybody what was going on with me.
Every artist has a story. It's that need to articulate ourselves and our experiences that drives painters to paint, writers to write, and songwriters to make music. Over the years, we've discussed the stories behind the music with dozens of artists. Across the wide variety of styles and approaches, the one constant is a desire to define the previously undefinable in our experiences. This is Kingston Live, and today's guest has had a long and challenging journey, which has become the bedrock of his upcoming record. Kentucky is the stage name of singer-songwriter Jordan Holman, and though the moniker is relatively new, his journey in music goes back much further. It weaves through good times and bad, developing alongside him. The acoustic-driven sounds of Kentucky is the vessel by which Jordan tells his story. And today we sit down to talk with him about songwriting, gratitude, and the fight to stay alive.
I'm Rob Howard, and you are Jordan Holman.
That's right.
Welcome to the Kingston Live podcast. Our listeners might not recognize your name, but if you've been paying attention to local music this past year or so, Kentucky is a name that you'll surely recognize. That's the name that Jordan's been performing and releasing music under. And not just one or two shows or a single here or there. You've played dozens of shows, and you've released about 8, 9, 10 singles. I've lost count anyways. Am I right?
Yeah, something like that. I did over 100 shows, mostly in Ontario last year, a little bit in Alberta and Quebec. And yeah, I think I've got 11 or 12 songs out now.
It's incredible. I wanted to get this question out of the way first because how'd you come to adopt the name Kentucky?
It's a love story. My wife was at the time, this is a couple of years ago. Kentucky's about 1.5 years old. We had just started dating, and I nicknamed her Missouri because the motto on the state license plate is the show me state. As in when you're dating someone new and she's like, show me, don't tell me. Mm-hmm. And that stuck, and we had fun with that. And then months later, I put on this old ass shirt that says Kentucky in scrawled white handwriting on that beautiful Kentucky blue background. And she said, oh, I'm going to call you Kentucky then. And then fast forward past that, when all these songs started coming to me and people started phoning me to do shows, it was all very strange and mystical. So then I got into one of the biggest questions you have if you're a musician. What am I going to call my band? It's the big question that ends up meaning almost nothing in the end. And I was sweating, there was pacing, there were phone books, and Jody walked by casually, munching an apple and said, why don't you call yourself Kentucky? And I went, oh, it's genius. Doesn't mean anything, and it's personal to us.
You already had the shirt, though.
And I had the shirt.
The first piece of merch before you formed the band.
So a love story.
Oh, that's amazing. I've wanted to ask you that question because I've wondered since we first started chatting about 1 year ago. It's interesting because, Kingston is a respectably sized Canadian town that seems like it's packed with an obscene amount of musical talent, some of which is fed into the city by surrounding towns and villages, hamlets, islands even.
Yeah.
And you're from Almonte. I know you're not originally from Almonte, but that's where I think you've been, in relative recent history. And where is Almonte exactly? I know it's not far from here. Where is Almonte in relation to Kingston, and what's life like there for you?
I, too, used to wonder what an Almonte was and where it was. It was actually originally named Almonte after a Mexican general.
Oh.
And they officially changed the name to the pronunciation to Almonte back in the 1800s because of the various wars and things like that. but it's Almonte to us. Many of us refer to it as Almonte jokingly. We're in Kingston, which I want to talk about that too. It's part of the reason why I wanted to do the podcast with you guys is because of the beauty of the musicians in Kingston. I really feel that Kingston is the heartbeat of Canada for various reasons. But from where we are, it's about 2 hours straight north. And if you were in downtown Ottawa and you drove west for about 45 minutes, you'd get to Almonte. It's a little tiny town, about 5,000 people. They film a lot of Hallmark Christmas movies there. But more importantly, there's been a long history of a small but very vibrant artist community, sculptors, painters, textile and fabric workers, musicians, so on and so forth. And I feel very lucky to have ended up there of all the small towns in Canada that I could have ended up in. You
mentioned Kentucky's about a year and a half old.
Yeah.
How did you get into music? Did you get into music before Kentucky? Were you making music, writing music before Kentucky?
Yeah, I have been making music
since... Seems like there's this pre-Kentucky era of your life and now a post-Kentucky era, and I sense there's been some level of transformation there. So I just wonder, how did you get into music sort of before Kentucky?
When I was 12, my friend Dave, he had an older brother, and the older brother went to university, and he had left a tape, but his mom had put it on the vacuum cleaner and was using the vacuum cleaner. And you know how cassette tapes used to get magnetically erased sometimes if they were left on certain devices with magnets in them? It erased almost everything, but there's 2 songs left on it. And Dave said, hey, come here in the garage. I got this tape. I got to show you. So he put it in, and I'm sitting there, and the first song is Paranoid by Black Sabbath. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And then he's like, there's only one other song because the whole rest of it's erased. So he flips it over and there's a weird noise, like a scratching noise. And then this voice comes out of the speakers and it's Black Dog by Led Zeppelin. And it blew my mind. My brains fell out of my head and I still have not got them back and I don't want them back. I sat there and listened to it 20 times in a row. And then poor 12-year-old me, I was so energized by this music that I raced home on my bike. I said, I got to go. Raced home across our town and I found my dad in the backyard raking leaves breathlessly. And I said, Dad, there's a new band. They're called Led Zeppelin. There's no time to talk. We have to go to the record store immediately. He laughed so hard that I started crying. But we got to the record store. I eventually got the complete box set. I went down the street to a garage sale maybe a week later and bought an old man electric guitar for $5. And I started teaching myself how to play. And it's been quite the journey.
That's amazing. So a year and a half ago, Kentucky was born. For our listeners who aren't familiar with your music, how do you describe it?
Yeah, it's acoustic rock music. A good way of explaining it, I would say, is like in the way that Who's Next by The Who or Tom Petty or Bob Seger, lots of acoustic guitar as sort of the central instrument, but its real purpose is to write the songs around. And it's music in that vein, I would say.
I'd read a very creative description of your music. I don't know if you had penned it or perhaps your publicist. It was something like, the Tragically Hip and R.E.M. got together for a jam with, there was some more to that. I'll have to dig that out and put it in the show notes because I thought it's pretty bang on. You write some catchy tunes.
Good. Good.
They really get in, the earworm kind of stuff, the stuff that you find, you listen to it that morning and then for some reason in the afternoon, you're humming this song. You're like, what is that in my head? Oh yeah. It's that Kentucky song that I listened to this morning. It just really sticks with you.
I'm glad to hear that. I learned from Pat Metheny, the jazz guitarist. I was watching an interview with him a long time ago, and he said, a song should be like Happy Birthday. And the interviewer said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then do the same thing with a slight variation, da-da-da-da-da-da. And he goes, Happy Birthday is a great song. And I'm looking at the TV like, what am I hearing? This is Pat Metheny, jazz funk virtuoso, saying that he writes songs in the vein of Happy Birthday. And then once I got over myself, I went, oh, I get it. You do the honest to yourself part first, and then you go, how can I communicate how I really feel the most effective way? I don't think about doing it, but it's just in myself. It's of myself when I write, even though I'm not thinking.
I'd read somewhere too that you tend to work alone, or at least maybe on the new record that you've been working on that'll be out this month. You play all the instruments, you do the vocals, you mixed, mastered, you've done it all. Is that, do you always work alone, or do you collaborate?
In the past, I played in 3 main bands between the Led Zeppelin God moment of 12 years old and Kentucky. And in those bands, I didn't do anything alone. I played lead guitar, I sang lead vocal, I wrote the songs, or for the most part wrote the songs, but I didn't do everything. And I had amazing musicians to collaborate with, and producers and engineers and mastering engineers. Now it's partly because of the journey of my life, not just my artistic journey, that I work alone, and partly out of necessity, both in the stage of life I'm in, as well as the new and changing reality of the music business that we are all facing.
I have kids too, so the moment I get a chance to do anything alone is amazing. And I'm not saying that's why you work alone. There are some acts and artists whose level of activity just makes them really hard for us to ignore. And you've been quite active on social media. You perform regularly in and around Kingston. You've been steadily releasing singles and videos. You're even working with a publicist for media outreach. I wanted to know what's motivating this momentum that you've built here over the past, say, year and a half.
A deep and very powerful force inside of me at the most elemental level. I almost died in 2020. And I don't have a memory of it, but a few times as well in the year leading up to that, I was terminally addicted to drugs and was at the very end of things, laying in bed with my heart stopped going, is this it this time? And then kicking back in and going, okay, what am I going to do? And I had a what am I going to do moment where I went, I don't know if my heart is about to stop at any moment again and not start. And I was so alone in it and so afraid because of the state of mind that I was in that I didn't want to tell anybody what was going on with me. Without belaboring the point, this is life. These things happen to some of us. I am one of some of us. I decided to try, this is how I put it to myself. I decided to try not to die. And I knew that it was unlikely that I would succeed, both a feeling that I had, but also just statistically, the place that I was at with the drugs that I was at, I went, it's probably not going to work, but I'm going to try. And I had one of those moments where I thought about it for a long time. It's like Gord Downey says, what do you think I did after that? I went for a very long walk. And what do you think I did after that? I went for another very long walk in one of his famous concert rants. I stared out the window many times in a row for a very long time, and I decided I'm going to try not to die. And through an incredible combination of help from people, family, friends, therapists, I didn't die. And I beat those odds. And after a time, this is in 2020, after a time, I started to look at the guitar again. It's kind of over there. And then I started to play it just a little bit because for the preceding years, I was in such rough shape, not only physically, but emotionally, that when I would try to play the guitar, I would burst out crying. I couldn't start. Then I started to write bits of parts, like Bits of America the Beautiful, for example, and went, where did that come from? And then that turned into songs. Then that turned into meeting the woman who gave us the name Kentucky, who's now my wife, my son and his beautiful mother, and Jody's 2 daughters, who are now my 2 daughters as well, all started coalescing in this thing where the family and the music and the safety and the togetherness and the healing that apparently I needed to experience came together. And then this music just started pouring out. And that is why the force exists, or the motivation, to play all the shows, to make all the plans, to be so active with fans and community on social media, to be down here with you guys. this Kentucky thing is something that just started happening. And I had a moment with my now wife where we both looked at each other and said, I think something is happening. It wasn't something I planned. And it was more like I had to give into it and say, oh, I guess I got to do this. And it was a slow start at first. And now I'm a little more organized. But here we are.
That's amazing. It started with a fundamental question. Not even a question, just a contemplation. I think I'm going to try to live.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, a lot of us are struggling with things. But that's a big one. That's a big question. And it's interesting that you, in pretty short order, came back to music. What had your relationship with music been like at that low point in your life?
Well, I'm glad you asked because I wouldn't have remembered otherwise, but it's the key part. I was standing at this window having a very long stare that very evening with my heart stopping. And there had been a song that my friend had introduced me to by a band called Gang of Youths. Are you familiar with them?
I have heard of them, yes.
Yeah, great band. They made a really great album called Go Further in Lightness. And there's a song on that album called Do Not Let Your Spirit Wane. I put this song on and just repeat. So I don't know how many times I listened to it, but it was hours, so 40 times. And that's what helped me say, I'll try not to die, was actually that song and then thinking about my life.
That's amazing. I can tell listening to your songs, they're deeply personal. I got the sense listening to your music that you've maybe been through some stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, not the kind of stuff that the average person's maybe gone through, but maybe something deeper. So I appreciate that you've shared part of that story. It also made me connect the dots to the name of the new album that you're putting out, Second Chance Music. Am I right? Is there a connection there?
You got it. You called it transformative. I had a transformative experience. I can tell you about the details like we're doing, but I don't really know why when so many people do not get the chance that they want to not die. And for whatever reason, I've been given it. And so I view it as my life's work from here on out, to exist in thankfulness, and not thankfulness that I make up or force myself to feel, but actual thankfulness. Yeah. And so the album is called Second Chance Music for a reason, because it's the music of the second chance that I shouldn't have gotten.
Yeah. You mentioned there was a lot of people involved in helping you get that second chance, but it sounds like music's also played a role in that second chance as well. What role has music played in giving you this second chance?
My relationship with music has deepened since that experience. It sounds like I had an experience in a night. I'm still having it. I still wake up every day and go, oh, you know. My relationship with music has truly deepened. I appreciate more about it. I suddenly understand more about what I'm doing while I'm doing it. I can play instruments now that I couldn't play before this transformative experience happened to me. It's amazing. I'm amazed by it, you know. I kind of have a feeling, I'm sure you can see my face, like a little kid inside every day where I'm like, I can't believe I'm alive. And it, because of life experience, I could say being older, but life experience and different things, I'm at a stage where I can utilize that feeling and put it to use and do Kentucky and do having a family and do being thankful. Whereas when you're less experienced or younger, for me, more all over the place, less able to focus that energy into a narrow laser and go there. But now I can, just in time.
That's amazing. You've described the new album, Second Chance Music, as a true-to-life story of how Jordan Holman became Kentucky. So without spoiling it, how does it tell that story?
It has an introduction. It's the first song. You know when you watch a movie and you see a scene and then you go, how did this person come to this? It's similar to that. And then the tape rewinds like an old reel to reel. And you go back, oh, okay. And then the third song shows the effects of how I treated people because of the state I was in, the pain I was in. Oh, okay. And then we have a transformative song. Oh, okay. And then what comes after you transform. It's not rainbows. That's when things get really hard. Not dying is one thing. Living is another thing. And so we go through a few of those songs. And then we're getting closer to the end of the album. And we find songs of thankfulness, as well as clear-eyed reflection on where I am and who am I really now. And with a real open-minded perspective, narrowness is gone. A broader perspective of being able to see myself and other people, though imperfect, is there. We have a very reflective, very short, meditative piece from Music from Another Country. That's the second last song that I performed, hopefully well. And then we go out on a pop punk banger.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to check it out.
Cool.
You know, it's interesting. I know your challenge was to try not to die. And like you said, you know, not dying is one thing. But are you living now? You seem like you have a zest for life. It seems like you've got so much to live for, so much energy, so much excitement and activity, I guess, around the release of the new album and things like that. But it seems like check off not dying. And it seems like you've sort of entered, you know, the living part now.
Yeah, I am, and I do, and I feel that way. And thanks for pointing it out, actually. It's something that even on the way down to Kingston today to meet up with you guys, I am pretty excited. My smile is from a real place inside. And of course, I don't know about other people, but I still have those thoughts of like, well, I got to be cool, or I got to do it right, or I got to do it the right way, whatever that is. It's on some shelf over here. And I'm just able enough nowadays to say, no, fuck that. Just be yourself. Who else are you going to be? Mm-hmm. You've tried being everyone else, dude. It doesn't work. So yeah, that is how I feel inside. And I feel very fortunate that I know how to do my inside on my outside now.
Can we listen to a song from Second Chance Music? Maybe you can pick one.
I would love to. Yeah, let's listen to the one that is out now in the music video. It's called Same Street, Different Towns.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It's one of those riffs at the start, the guitar riff, like I was saying, when music started coming back to me through the hands, that I went, that feels good. That feels good. And the lyrics came because I was watching my now wife negotiate, is a good word, reality after divorce while having children. And I observed that it was like watching two people who live on the same street living in two different towns or two different worlds of reality. And so I went along for a while thinking that's about her and that guy and them. And then, of course, one day I woke up and was like, no, that's about me. I'm in the same boat. I just needed that convenient, it's about someone else in order to be able to write it, because it would have been too personal otherwise.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, I was just talking to my son's mom on the way down here because he's sick today. We had a little check-in. And this song explores the difficulty that I feel in that brokenness of a broken family, you know. And it's funny with the song, I've had some people say, why do you got to say broken? Why does it have to be so negative? And I say, because it is for me. I'm not speaking for anyone else but myself. I'm not saying I hate myself, and I love my son's mom. And it just hurts, man. It sucks sometimes. But as you'll hear in the song, the chorus says, never mind all that. Let's do this a different way. And so I feel good about it.
What I fear, still have yet to say. How many times have I wondered if you missed me today? Driving slow past my son asleep in your house. We're living on the same street, baby, in two different towns. But every time I reached out to love you, my tongue got tied. My words don't touch you, and all I want
We here at Kingston Live always marvel at the musical acts from the surrounding rural areas that seem to find a home and early success here in Kingston. Coming from Alma, how has Kingston's music community benefited you?
Oh, I could go on for a while, so I'll go on for a short while. Very welcoming. There are many communities, larger communities, that I do not find very welcoming. And I've played music all over the globe, and I've lived all over the place. Kingston is amazing. I remember, shout out to Graven, Maddie McKechnie, in 2011, maybe 10, I don't know. I needed a show in Kingston on an East Coast tour of the States and Canada. And I'd never met him. And he just got me a show at the Mansion. Didn't want to cut. He just got me a show. He's so nice to me. And he's still doing his thing.
Yeah, he still comes to Kingston to play regularly as well. Yep.
Yeah. He's just here. He's just wonderful. And the venues here I find really warm and easy to deal with. There's always exceptions, but really largely I find it really good dealing with venues in Kingston. They take it seriously. They take music seriously is what I mean. Sometimes when you go to a party in North America and someone says, "What do you do for a living?" And they say, "Oh, I'm an accountant, or I drive a bus, or what have you." People say, "Oh, cool. Like, that's a job." You say, "I'm a musician." In their head, you can see them go, "Oh, you live in your mother's basement." And some of us do. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but they don't take it seriously. Kingston, people take music seriously here, and it's so wonderful.
Yeah. You mentioned that you've played in many different places across Canada, even around the world. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, I grew up in Alberta and Saskatchewan mainly, and that was great. But I wanted...
Is that where you first learned to play music and fell in love with Led Zeppelin?
Yeah, it was in Sherwood Park, Alberta, on the east side of Edmonton. You do, eh? Mm-hmm. Have you been out there?
Yeah. I lived in Calgary for a few years, so...
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've lived in Lethbridge as well.
Yeah.
I think growing up in Alberta is where my independent spirit comes from.
Yeah.
And Saskatchewan is very beautiful. It helped me understand Joni Mitchell's music, actually. Mm-hmm. Even though I did not care for living in Regina and going to high school there, I learned a lot artistically and musically there from the landscape.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Regina is incredibly beautiful in the summertime. I've never been there any other time, but it's a really pretty city.
It's warm, it's sunny, it's very pretty. And southern Saskatchewan is one of my favorite places, just the windswept plains in the shortgrass prairie. I've been saying I've been writing a lot of music for the last couple of years. I mean, like, a lot. I've got many projects to come over the next 20 years, and one of them is about the West, and I can't wait to get to that, but we'll do this for now. But yeah, I got into a band when I was 20. I was listening to your interview, and Miss Emily was talking about, forget about the backup plan, and hilariously from the back you held, there is in fact an album called Now for Plan A. Yeah. I thought that was so funny. Yeah. Wonderful advice from Miss Emily. What's a backup plan? Backup for what? Someone else's life, you know? Mm-hmm. I was sort of forced to go to university, and I had a scholarship that was given to me, and I mailed the money back. And, you know, I'll never forget telling my parents, I think I might want to maybe try being a musician for a living. Just the look, you could like actually watch the moment their spirits broke as I told them. And they're wonderful. Hi, Mom and Dad. Out in Alberta. So I got into a band, and we were instantly locally successful in Edmonton, packing the clubs, people loving the music. And because I was, no offense to the guys, because I was male and 19 or 20, I just assumed everything I touch in life is going to turn to gold. Well, how could it not? I'm me. So I left that band because I thought, well, I can do better than this then. And I soon found out that I am not King Midas. I was King Midas in reverse. And so I spent a couple of years living illegally in a commercial office space that we turned into a soundproof studio on 109th Street in Edmonton, across from Grant MacEwan College. And all we did was music. That is all I did for a year and a half. I almost never saw anyone. I never went anywhere. You know, I didn't drink. We just made music, my friend Matt and I. And the reason I say all that is because it was 2005. We made demos and mailed them to labels. And I think I may be one of the one of the last group of people to get a major label deal off of mailing a CD to Universal Music. And it was a third tier distribution deal through some other label. But at the time, it was sort of like, all we care about is getting a deal. Now we have a deal. Now what do we do? And then we just stared at each other and it became clear we had no plan. So I said, well, we got to move somewhere where the music is happening and it's too much of a pain in the butt to get to the States and paperwork and we got no money. Vancouver's beautiful, but it's kind of boring. Let's go to Toronto. So we packed up and moved to Toronto. We lived in Kensington Market. We toured the country from there, started making forays into the States as you do if you're able. Made an album, hired a radio promoter.
What was the name of your band?
There's a band called Sam Hell.
Cool.
It was cool. I love those guys. I saw them all recently at a sort of a reunion show in Edmonton. Mm-hmm. It was a Kentucky show, but I brought almost all of them back up on stage with me to do us a couple songs each. We had a beautiful night. And that band, like bands do, it ended. There's conflicting interests and phase changes in life about what should I do with my life if it's not music. And anyways, the band broke up and that's the end of the deal. The guys all went back to Edmonton and carried on with music and other things. And I stayed in Toronto. And I got involved with a guy who invited me to write a soundtrack for a film. But then that turned into us saying, I think this is more of an album that we're writing. And that was an adventure that took me over to the UK, took me to living in New York City. I had a residency at a club called Pianos in the Lower East Side. Cool. On Ludlow Street for a while. It was very cool. I had a great time. I lived in Bushwick in Brooklyn. I learned a lot, and I love America, man. America's an idea. I don't know that I love the idea of a country founded on slavery and violence, but I lived in America. I've toured it a lot, and I love American people. They, by and large, were wonderful to me, and I've had some of the most formative experiences of my life living and working there. And I had a bit of a divorce somewhere along that road, as people do. And I came back to Toronto because of it. And that's when that downhill slide that led to all of this Kentucky stuff started. But that's sort of where I came from and how I got here.
Everyone loves listening to music. But not everyone hears the countless hours of practice behind it. And practice requires space. Not just physical space, but mental space. When you can get away from the distractions and interruptions and really focus, that's when music really comes together. We call it the Roswell effect. Music needs space. Book your rehearsal space at roswellrehearsals.ca.
How have all those experiences shaped you? As being Kentucky, you must draw on the cumulative experiences that you've had. And I want to know how have all those experiences, you've done a lot, you've played a lot, you're an accomplished musician. I feel like those experiences must have shaped who you are today, or the kind of, maybe it's the kind of artist that you're aspiring to be with Kentucky.
Certainly they have, yeah. It's kind of like I was saying a few minutes ago. I've reached this time in my life, not an age, but a phase where I can harness who I am and my cumulative experiences, as you call them, and focus them into communications. It's very important to me, despite the fact that I like to tell a long story, that when I make music and when I make art, when I make a music video or a project, that I eliminate all unnecessary communication. And it's actually something that I learned from Steve Martin, the comedian, who learned it from E.E. Cummings, the poet, and his series of non-lectures. Eliminate all unnecessary communication. So, for example, if a song is about this, and it doesn't have to be a topic, because songs aren't really like that. They're esoteric. But if it's about this feeling or this thing, then make it about that. And the only way I can find to do that, to harness my cumulative experiences when I write, is to not plan to write, and critically, as I mentioned earlier, to not think. I have managed to learn how to have like an antenna, and I know when it's coming, and I go, oh, and usually I say, oh, out loud, and everyone in the house knows that it's coming. And at first they were sort of like, should we stand still? And now it's just like, oh, cool, there he goes. And I'm just another part of the family, like everybody else who has their transmissions in their moments. But yeah, so when I sit down, the cumulative experiences come, but I'm very careful to not think about anything. I just let it come out. And then later I go, oh, that's how I feel. Interesting. Sometimes I knew it. Sometimes it's the opposite. I go, I thought I had the opposite feeling on that subject. So the music, again, there helps me understand myself. I would be lost without it.
Yeah, yeah. I've also read and seen on social, you're building your own studio, is that right?
Yeah, we're getting closer.
How'd that project start?
It started because of that conversation that my wife and I had that I mentioned, where we had to really sit down and look at each other and say, I think something is happening to us. Here's an example. I got a phone call from a person who, when I was needing to make money because I had not died, but I had not yet lived and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I lived in this new town where I didn't know anybody at all and I had no family. I was working at their house, fixing something at it. And I mentioned that I played music. For all he knew, it could have been like I picked up the guitar at a campfire and played Wheat Kings once every month. That guy called like a year later and said, hey, you said something about playing music. And I said, yeah. He goes, do you want to play every Monday night for a year at my bar? And I've been a musician for a long time. That's never happened to me. And I said, sure, like, what's the bar? Where is it? That kind of stuff was happening to me every week. And that's why we went, what's happening? So part of recognizing something is happening, we said, all right, let's put our families together. Let's get the kids together. Let's sell our houses. Let's go buy a house that we can build a studio in so that me, can work on music day in and day out because it is pouring out of you. You can write for yourself. You can write for other people. I write tons of instrumental music. And it's a place where you can live and work, and we can integrate this music and this family into a symbiotic thing where everybody is equally important to each other and everything feeds everything. I feel so lucky. I never thought something like this would happen to me.
You are all in.
All in.
All in.
There's no plan B.
Yeah, I mean, you have literally re-engineered your life and your family around doing your music, making your music.
That's true. I hadn't thought about it that way. That is a very good way to put it.
Your debut album, Second Chance Music, is being released May 25th, and I hear you've got some big plans for its release. Tell us about those.
Yeah, I'm doing an album preview tour. Instead of touring after it's out, I thought part of my focus, or my mission, I guess, is to be a part of the community of people like you and like many musicians in Kingston, to be honest, to make music special again. I remember standing out in front of the Regina Center for the Arts in 1997 in the dead of winter, freezing, with thousands of people overnight, hopefully to get to the box office in the morning, and there would still be a ticket left for the Phantom Power tour by the Tragically Hip. And that feeling of getting up to the box and you're just like, please God, let there be a ticket. And then you're sort of trying to read the face of the person at the box office, and they've got the face like, and you're just so thrilled. And I went to the show by myself because no one wanted to come with me. As I said, I didn't enjoy high school in Regina very much. Maybe it was just high school and maybe it was just me. And you can check the set list. I remember By Divine Right opens, the Hip come out, and I'm mesmerized. I'm at the very back, probably right behind Mark Vreeken doing the sound. And for the months I had to wait before the internet told us everything we don't need to know, I thought to myself, if they will just play Escape Is at Hand by the Traveling Man, that will just make my life. But of course, they're not going to play it. And at the end of the final encore, multiple encores, they played it. And when that drum beat kicked in and those wail noises of the guitar, oh, I just burst out crying. Just this wonderful 16-year-old boy, so happy, tears running down my face. And that feeling has never left me. And
That's the power of live music right
that's
there.
the power of live music. And so I want to do things that put the focus on music and make it special. It's already special for me. It is me. I am music. It comes out of my body. I want to make it special for the fans and the audience. So I thought, let's do an album preview tour where if you are interested in Kentucky, you can come and hear the whole album from start to finish before you can listen to it. And then you can live with the recording after and play that game. Oh, yeah. Oh, he did that differently. Whoa, that's not like that at all. Cool.
And you're not just doing a little tour around Kingston or the greater Kingston area.
It's 13 dates, all over the place. Brockville, Ottawa, Kingston, Westport, Trenton, etc.
And you planning a big one, though, right?
Yeah, there will be lots more to come in 2025. One of the things, though, that I have to say is that I did a series of Christmas shows with Amanda Keeley from Brockville. This past year, we did Brockville, Bath, Westport, Almonte, and one other one in the Thousand Islands at the Ivy. And I was driving back from Brockville to the next show in the morning with my wife, and you're always driving near the Rideau Canal. And I said, man, I was just talking out loud, man, it would be so cool if we got a houseboat and then we sailed and played all the venues on the Rideau Canal, because I had played the Merrickville Arts Festival. I'd played in Smiths Falls last year, my first year doing all these shows as Kentucky. And as I said it out loud, Jody turned to me and said, that would be cool. And then I sort of had to listen to myself and go, oh yeah, that would be cool. So then I thought, somebody's done that for sure. I looked it up and it's never been done. So I have thankfully, just in time, like earlier today, I've managed to get everybody on board. I'm still talking with Parks Canada, but I am hopeful. But the city of Kingston, the Kingston Downtown BIA, town of Gananoque, we got Westport, we got the Epinacon. We've got a local small business as a sponsor out of Gananoque where all those houseboats get rented out of. And we're doing a musical houseboat tour of the Rideau Canal. Never been done before, from July 7th to 14th. And there'll be lots about it in the coming months.
Oh, I'm sure you'll be able to find all the details at kingstonlive.ca. We'll make sure that those are online for everyone.
Got it.
Man, that sounds amazing. So exciting. Where can our listeners find you and your music online?
Everything I do is called I Am Kentucky. I had to get that handle because the state of Kentucky has just Kentucky for everything. So it's Kentucky, but if you search I Am Kentucky on Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, that's me. And my website is iamkentucky.com.
Of course, you can find all about you on kingstonlive.ca
right.
as well.
It's probably the best place to find it.
That's right. Good answer. Right on. Really appreciate you coming in and sitting down with us and sharing your story, man. That's deep and touching, and so is your music. And if you have not checked out Kentucky yet, do hit kingstonlive.ca, find the amazing music, check out the plans for the release of the new album, Second Chance Music. Don't miss his shows when he's playing.
And can I say, and thank you very much for having me and giving me the chance to tell my story. It's a commitment I had to make to myself, a scary one, that I was going to share my story when I started really doing this year, is you guys are doing great work here that is extremely beneficial to the music community. And again, I said, I believe that Kingston, musically and culturally, is the heartbeat of Canada. You want to know kind of what's going on, for better or for worse, Kingston is a perfect heartbeat of it. And you guys are doing a great service to Kingston and to Canada, highlighting what's going on. And I have to say, there are many bands and artists that I love here, but I just love seeing some of the women who make music in this town. Miss Emily, I love what Luella is doing. I think that is so cool. And Savannah Shea and her soulful music, wonderful.
Yeah. So
keep it going, everybody in Kingston. I love what you do here.
That's what gets us doing what we do. That's what puts the fuel in our tank every day. And of course, discovering new artists like you that come to Kingston and make their home here just gives us a reason to keep on doing it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
This has been Kingston Live. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it, tell a friend, or subscribe on your platform of choice. For show listings, artist info, and all things Kingston music, check out kingstonlive.ca. Kingston Live was produced in Kingston by Soundwise. Hosted by Rob Howard. Voiceovers and technical production by John Sanfilippo. Writing and research by Peter Sanfilippo. Executive producer Rob Howard. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at podcast@kingstonlive.ca.